Hello everyone, this is Ms. Gutsell speaking. In this video, I am going to explain how to create a Google Doc in Google Drive so that it could be attached to an assignment in Google Classroom. This video is an overview of the creation process for activities that students could complete in Google Classroom. If you need to know all of the features of an assignment in Google Classroom, please go to the How to Add an Assignment in Google Classroom video for that information. With that being said, let's begin. So, when creating activities for students, it's best to create the digital files in Google Drive. Google Drive is the online file management system associated with the G Suite. While it is true I could type docs.google.com and end up on this page and create a new document here, the issue with doing so is the fact that my file would not be organized in my Drive. Drive is where I can organize items so that I can easily find them again. So I'm going to close that tab since I do not want to work with it. As you can see on the screen, I already have folders pre-created, and for this tutorial, I'm going to create my new document in the Materials for Tutorials folder. I have to double-click into that folder, and as can be seen, I already have a sample Google Doc. I'm going to show you what this sample Google Doc looks like for a second, just so you can see what it could potentially be. But I'm going to also start from the very beginning and explain how I went about creating this final version. So, back in Google Drive, I need to click on the New button and then click Google Docs to create a brand new Google Doc file. I would then want to give it a title by clicking on the Untitled Document header and changing it to an appropriate name. So, when working with Google Docs, I have a lot of options for creating my file that students would eventually work on. I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks that are helpful when constructing your document. First of all, when choosing a font, I recommend using a sans serif font if you are working on screens with this document. Sans serif fonts are fonts like Arial and Verdana, where there isn't those little extra lines that you would see in a font like Times New Roman. My preferred font is actually Verdana. It is the most visually appealing from my point of view when reading on a screen. So now that I have chosen my font, I also want to make certain that my font size is nice and large so that it is easily read when viewing it on a screen. When creating a document for students to write on, there are a lot of different ways to adjust the layout. In my first example, I'm going to demonstrate creating a numbered list. If you wanted to, you could create a numbered list and then instruct students to answer the question in the space below. Very similar to a traditional worksheet. You would then hit enter and it would start your next number. So what you want to do is go back to your original number and then adjust the spacing to make it larger. And then you would put in your information for the next question. And to make certain that students have a place to actually put their cursor, I would hit enter one more time, which would generate a number, but then I'm going to hit backspace so that I just have this space now where students could click and put their cursor, and then they would be able to type their answer. Information in a document can also be organized in another fashion, namely through a table. If I click on Insert, and then hover over Table, I can put in a table with as many cells as necessary. If you're just starting off, I recommend doing 2 by 2, because then you could list, this is the question, this is your answer, and then you could type your question for students to answer. What I also really enjoy about tables is the fact that if I were to highlight a few cells and then right-click, I could go to Table Properties and I could color code the cell background color. This could be very useful so that students can see they have to answer in a particular place. Any place where there is pre-existing text is not a place where they would type, rather they would put their answer in the white space. For color coding, there are lots of options. I tend to use the rainbow color coding option where my top color is red, then I go orange, and so on and so forth. So as you can see in version 1, it is very similarly laid out, but a sample answer has been placed. So once you decide upon how you're going to create the layout for the Google Doc, you can go to Google Classroom. You're going to go into your classroom and into the Classwork tab to then create a new assignment. Within this assignment, when you click on Add, you will select Google Drive and the newest files will be on top. So as can be seen, I can see both of the tutorial documents I created. I could attach both at once, or I could attach only one of them. After selecting it, I can click Enter or Insert, and it will attach the files. If I made a mistake and attached 2 files when I meant to attach one, all I have to do is click an X on the one I do not want to have attached. In terms of making certain students can edit the file, this is where the drop-down box is very important. When I click on the drop-down box, I can choose from students can view the file, which means they could just look at it. I could have students edit the file, which means they would be editing the original document. So right now it says they're editing the original docs version 1. So I would want to make certain that I have a copy of this file that would not be edited for my future record keeping. That is something very important to keep in mind. If I had 10 students in the class and they could all edit the file, they would all be able to work on it at the same time. Finally, I have make a copy for each student, which would do as it says. It would make an individual copy for each student to edit. So these features here, view file, edit file, and make a copy, only apply to Google files, which include, as I shall demonstrate, items such as Google Docs, as well as Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Drawings. In terms of adding Google Forms, that would require different settings and recommendations. So if you are looking for file types that can be edited in Google Classroom by students, you want to use Google Drawings, Google Slides, Google Sheets, or Google Docs. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video helped you grow in your knowledge of technology.